teams here. So I'm interested to see how this goes, and I'm more interested to see what happens, not just at the top with the the way that Oklahoma was able to go and basically raid Knoxville, but what happens to some of these other players that perhaps were playing a level too high, right? Like a Tanner Mordecai who was sitting behind a Spencer Rattler and a Jalen Hurts and even an Austin Kendall going to SMU, right? Or what happens with a kiddo that perhaps wasn't cutting it at SMU? Can he go and play, let's say, North Dakota State, which is, I think an FBS team playing FCS football, so maybe a bad example there. But I would really love to see the moving and shaking among the kiddos, and I'm here for it.
Hey, so you're telling me that the transfer portal is like that really bad movie that Kurt Russell made called Stargate, where if you go in, you could end up in a really weird world where they don't have football, or there's guys that are wandering in the transfer portal we never see again?
I love the reference, but I'm also going to say James Spader's the reason that we got that thing going in the first place. And all anybody had to do was say, hey, man, put the guns down. Like you didn't go in there looking to fight anybody. We can end this movie peacefully.
I love it. I knew you'd know. I knew you knew. That's great.
Talking to RJ Young here. RJ, Tennessee and Oklahoma, I believe, are set to play in 2024. Is that correct?
Correct.
Will Josh Heupel still be the coach of Tennessee in 2024?
Ooh, there it is. That's a really good question. Now, I would like to see the details of his contract because I hope that he got perhaps that Matt Rule contract that he got at Baylor, which is say, hey, look, guys, this is not a 2-year job. This is a 7-year job. I want assurances, right? Mel Tucker at Michigan State got something similar saying, hey, if you guys get hit with sanctions, I want that baked into my contract. So however long those sanctions go for, I want my contract extended. I want to be protected from somebody else's mess. I think Danny White is smart enough to know that that ain't going to work for everybody. But with Josh Heupel, what you're going to do is put up points. And I think that is going to keep people enthusiastic about Tennessee football because you can't look bad and lose, right? You can look good and lose. That's going to be okay. We're going to have fun with that. Like Ole Miss going 5-5, we're all here for that, right? The way that Arkansas was able to put together something like an entertaining season, we're all here for the Sam Pittman era. I think he's going to be there in 2024 is the answer to your question. I don't know in what capacity Tennessee football will be, though. And that's what I'm really interested to see. Who's going to be on the staff? Who is he going to poach from? How are they going to recruit? Because what we've learned here recently is there's plenty of talent in the state of Tennessee, and that is the flagship university. He ought to be able to put together something nice.
If you think of yourself as a big-time wide receiver, Oklahoma is probably one of the 4 or 5 places you'd like to be, and I'm not sure Miami is on that list. Give us an idea of what going through Charleston Rambo's mind as to why he would transfer from a place that probably gives him the best opportunity to be a pro.
Probably what's going through my mind, which is, man, this is one of the 3 best wide receiver rooms in the country. It's stacked. I got outshined by a true freshman that nobody saw coming named Marvin Mims. There's another guy on the other side named Theo Weiss, who I think is something of a CD clone, right? I also know that Jaden Hazelwood didn't have the season that we all thought he would have. And they brought in more wide receivers, right? Cody Jackson, 5-star Mario Williams. You can keep going here. And he looked over at Miami and said, hey, that was a team that they dropped a lot of De'Aaron King passes over there. I can take the top off the defense. De'Aaron King can throw it 1,000,000 yards. Hey, I'll gamble on that as a grad transfer. Everybody knows that a couple years ago, I was the guy taking the top off the defense. I was the guy that everybody thought was going to be the next Hollywood Brown. I will bet on myself and go to Miami, where they lost a ton, right, to start with Brevin Jordan. They need a dominant pass-catching threat, and I think he can run every route on the tree. The question with Rambo is, does he have the agility of a Devontae Smith, right? Because he's got the speed, and he's got the size, and he's got some wiggle. I want to see how that manifests because I think it could be really fun for him down there. But this is good news for Oklahoma, right? This means your wide receiver room is that good. And hanging on to Dennis Simmons means that you're going to be great. This is the championship window for Oklahoma. You guys have heard me say that for 2 years. And I hate to see Charleston Rambo's not a part of that, but I also understand that man is chasing an NFL dream, and it's going to be hard to do that next year at Oklahoma.
RJ, the transfer market at this point in time, it's – I know you've touched on it here, talking about, the power that they have. I mean, Have we ever seen anything like this in terms of free agency in college football? Is that what this is right now?
It ain't yet, right? Because one of the things I think is getting conveniently forgotten in all of this is that all these kids ain't eligible to play, right? Like, we expect a lot of them to be eligible to play because we've seen that be the way the NCAA goes with the waivers here, knowing that we're all trending toward this one-time transfer rule, right? Where everybody gets to go into the pot, come out without any restrictions wherever they want to go. I think that's closer to college football free agency, right? But we're not there yet because, look, just because you transferred in doesn't mean you get to play this year. Like, the rule's still the rule until they change it. We were having this conversation last year about UCLA offensive lineman Chris Murray at Oklahoma going, what is taking so long with him as opposed to some other guys that we thought, perhaps jumped the line. Seemed like quarterbacks were getting preferential treatment. We have no data to show that, right? It's all anecdotal on what we see with our eyes. We don't know what anybody's waiver looks like. We can't read them, all those things. I think we're getting there. We're not there yet. The other way in which I don't think this is free agency is all scholarships are not created equal, guys. Like, one of the things that I love about NBA and college football, NFL free agency is the money, right? You get to talk about contracts. You get to talk about what somebody's getting paid. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it's football scholarship to Duke is a football scholarship to Oklahoma, because it ain't, right? It's a different ball of wax altogether there. And when we change that up and we start to talk about these things as transactions, then we're in free agency. We're not there yet.
RJ Young with us here on Big 12 this morning. RJ from Fox Sports, among a thousand other things that RJ does a really good job with. RJ, tell me about the quarterback situation at OU. Are we going to get a competition? And obviously, Lincoln always talks about competition. Caleb Williams comes in, the 5-star, going to take on a guy that looked pretty good in Spencer Rattler this year. Two young quarterbacks. Is there a chance that there's an actual competition here between these two where Caleb Williams could potentially win?
Let me give you the Lincoln Riley response first. Yes, I think, we brought in Micah Bowens from Penn State, Nittany Lion. We thought he could help us. Chandler went to another place, and I expect to see all three of those guys compete right to the end. Somebody separates, then, I'll name the starter then. The RJ Young response is, hell no! No! This is Rattler's team. Williams knows that. Like, I love Caleb Williams. I love Spencer. He knows what the line is. He knows what he's supposed to do. If Spencer Rattler doesn't start as a true freshman over Jalen Hurts, okay, what makes you think Caleb Williams is going to start over Spencer Rattler? Like, Rattler is the most talented dude at Oklahoma not named Kyler Murray, right? And that's because Kyler Murray is an X-Men. He's a mutant, right? That dude is something else entirely. But Rattler is the guy. It's also his team in a way that I don't think it's been anybody's team since Baker Mayfield, because the kids he came up with, right? Jaden Hazelwood, Theo Weiss, Marcus Major, right? Those are the guys he knows. The guys on the offensive line are guys he came in with. Austin Stogner is a guy he's developed a special relationship with. The core of this team is now the 2019 class, and he's the star of it. He's the quarterback. He's got 2 years in the system. They're molding it to who he is, and he just went and lit up Florida in a Cotton Bowl. Oklahoma hadn't won the Cotton Bowl in years, right? I mean, I don't care who they played. I don't care that it was Florida scout team. I care that they went down there and they performed. I think that Williams is going to benefit from this year, and I think that Micah Bowens is going to benefit from this year. But what's going to be interesting is how this is going to affect their 2022 recruiting in years to come, because getting 5-star after 5-star is a good way to run off other 5-stars. So, yes, I think that Caleb Williams is going to be starting quarterback in 2022 when Rattler declares for the NFL draft this time next year.
Yeah, that's it. I think when you recruit like Lincoln does, you have to have that in the back of your mind, right? Like, you've got to recruit knowing that, hey, the timeline is this. So you're going to come in and sit for a year, but after that, we think Rattler is going to be good enough to go to the NFL, and at that point, now you're taking over in year 2. And I mean, you have to think that Lincoln recruits that way, right?
I don't think he does, though. I think that's how he puts the board together in the back of his mind. I think he recruits going, can you win the job today? Do you think you can win the job today? Because I'm going to give you a shot to win the job today. If you can go do it, please, by all means. Matter of fact, one of the things that he said, and I believed him in August, is I wish that Tanner Mordecai had more opportunities to compete for this job, because he didn't want to get into the reasons as to why Mordecai could not participate in practice. We assume they were COVID related, but he's always adamant that I want to give every one of my guys an opportunity to go beat the next one. So you'll get reps, right? I don't think that that's going to be in question. I think how you look in your reps versus how the other guy looks in their reps, that's what he's going to judge. So if you can come in as a true freshman and Trevor Lawrence some stuff, he's going to let you. I just don't think that there are a lot of kids that are willing to bet on themselves in that way. Brock Vandegrift would be an example of this. Brock Vandegrift looked at Oklahoma, coming out of Prince Avenue Christian, said, you know what, I probably can go beat somebody out at Georgia. I don't know about the rest of these dudes at Oklahoma, and it's far away from home. I got a home-cooked meal over here. They bring in JT Daniels, right, but they lose Dwan Mathis. I mean, it's just math for the kids, and that's usually what happens. When I talk to the kiddos, the first thing they tell me is, what's the depth chart, right? Because people forget, Jamar Chase was committed to Kansas for a week, right? Before he was committed to Florida, and then his dad said, have you seen the wide receiver depth chart at Florida? No. Take a look. Oh, let me reopen my recruitment. I'm going to end up at LSU, right? I think that's how that goes for the kids. But if you're Lincoln Riley, you'd be dumb not to recruit the best player possible, knowing, I'm going to have to juggle him, but that's a first world problem. And I think we all would rather have the first world problem of having 3 5-star quarterbacks rather than one guy on, one guy off.
RJ, really good basketball coming up in Norman this weekend as the 9th-ranked Crimson Tide comes in. If it was a football game, you'd really be excited. I think you're really excited about this basketball game. I know I am. I'm drinking the Lon Cougar Kool-Aid. Am I right? Am I wrong? OU seems to be extremely hot and a team that's tough to handle right now.
It's COVID year, right? Like, that's what everybody keeps telling me, but they're ranked, doggone it. Like, all right, the way I take in the Lon Kruger experience is I came up cutting my teeth covering OU men's basketball the year he got hired, right? And from the day that man stepped foot on campus, he has been able to coach that team and overcoach it, right? People forget about this. Buddy Hield shows up. He cannot shoot. They don't want him to shoot. Call him Energizer Buddy because you put him in there to get defensive stops as a 6th man and run the floor. Lon Kruger got that dude in a gym one time, fixed his shot, said stay on the gun, and he became one of the best three-point shooters in college basketball, and then was a first-round selection at the pro level. I think you're right to drink it because Lon's not going to get out coached. He's going to get out talented, right? Because he ain't going to recruit on that level. But if you got him in a 1-score game or you got him in a 7-point game, that's a game that Oklahoma can win because Lon Kruger will put you in a position to hit that shot. It's about whether or not you can hit that shot. I'm excited for that game because of OU Texas, right? Like, if it didn't go OU's way, I might not be as excited. Now I'm like, is OU low-key another Final Four team? We'll find out. I think we'll find out in a real way later this week, excuse me.
RJ, we talked about this earlier, but just curious for your thoughts. I'm a Kansas grad, and Kansas just lost their offensive coordinator, Brent Dearman, to Middle Tennessee State.
Right.
For the same position.
Yeah.
That can't happen at a Power 5 school.
Yeah, brother. I looked at that too, and I said, oh no, because Brent Dearman has head coach chops, right? Like, out at Bethel, lighting people up. And I got to tell you, one of the most fun games I saw in all of 2019 was Kansas versus Texas. And doggone it, if Carter Stanley and Andrew Parchman weren't this close to knocking off Texas on the 40 acres on the anniversary of their 1969 national championship game, I was fired up. I was going, oh, okay. So y'all decided y'all want to go play a little football up there in Lawrence now. All right. And then you lose him to Middle Tennessee State, which, as everybody listening to the show knows, ain't exactly any sort of blue blood, right? And you lost Andrew Parchman in the portal to Florida State, which really hurt because I love that dude. And I don't think anybody was talking about him in a meaningful way until he ends up in Tallahassee because that's the way these things go. You got a vacancy that you got to fill with a talented dude and up-and-comer. But you also have questions that you have to answer about. Why does Brent Dearman leave a Power 5 coordinator position for a low-level group of 5 coordinator position? I want to know the answer to that question, and Les better have a doggone good answer, as should Jeff Long if he wants my money toward donations for anything related to football. Otherwise, it's time for Les to go, because that guy I thought was going to be your head coach in waiting. I mean that. Like, I really loved him, and he still might be. But right now, I think you're worse off than what you were a couple of years ago, which is, terrible as a KU football fan. But my goodness, what's it going to take for them to figure it out, Ari? I don't know.
It's a good point. I keep saying I'm not sure when we'll hit rock bottom, but we'll let you know. And, yeah, it just continues to get deeper and deeper.
Yeah, Gale Sayers ain't walking through that door, by the way.
Appreciate that. He's rubbing it in on you, Ari. He's rubbing it in on you.
Yeah, he went through the scores of the differences. He was like, yeah, they lost to OU by 50. It's like, yeah, it could have been worse. It should have been worse. Lost to Iowa State by 30. I mean, it's ugly. It's ugly.
Well, I mean, and every once in a while you hit, right? And that's what hurts for me to watch as a football fan. Puka was the dude. He was an OU killer, right? Like that was the reason to watch him. It's like, oh, I get to play OU this week. Cool, I'm going for 200.
Right.
Like, and then I mentioned Andrew Parchman, right? Every now and again, you get a player, you get a dude like Joel Deneen a couple years ago, right? Hitting everything that moved.
Right.
And my good Hassan Defense. If there was ever a great name for a safety, right? Look, I know all these cats, right? I really love watching football, even at KU. But I also got to say, yo, man, tell your man Les Miles, we don't use fullbacks anymore. Nobody does. We don't, yeah. Yo, man, this is 2021. This ain't 1995. You ever seen a Les Miles playbook? It's quite literally 6 inches thick. It's 6 inches thick, and it's full of stuff that says, do your job over and over again. I read the thing. Like, that's why I'm telling you about it. It's worthless. I hate it. Air raid playbook, it's what, quarter inch thick, maybe?
There you go.
And it's, hey, run this route. Be open here. If you see cover 3, do this. If you see cover 2, do that. What's he going to take up there, man? Like, everybody loved the Mad Hatter when he got hired because he was a character. Now it turns out that the man might have forgotten how to coach football. But that's me, right? I'm just the college football analyst at Fox.
When you started talking with us, you were just a college football analyst on YouTube. Now you're doing it all up big on Fox. You're the best, man. Appreciate you. Be well.
I appreciate you both, guys. I appreciate the show.